surprise to me. What's up, everybody? What's up, fish heads? Back for the third day?
Yep. Day 3 of Inspire. It's our first annual event. And it is a week long of streams, special guests, giveaways, all that awesome stuff. So we're on day 3 of 5. If you've been sticking with us through every stream, we super appreciate it. And this one is going to be absolutely amazing.
Yes,
so
I'm very excited for this one today. If you guys haven't already, like I always say, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It helps us out tremendously. We are giving away $1,500 this episode.
Yeah, so there's 3 $500 Waterbox gift cards that we're giving away. That giveaway is open now, and it's for the first 45 minutes of the stream. Go to the Inspire page on the website. There is an enter giveaway block for this stream. Enter there. It will close at 6:45, and then we'll announce the winners at the end of this stream.
Yep.
So don't miss out. But we also have our grand prize giveaway that has been open to enter. That is on the website as well, and that will be open until the 19th, which is this Friday at 6:45. We'll announce the winner on a Monday stream, another special stream for you guys, at 6 p.m. Eastern as well.
Is it 6 streams?
It is 6 streams,
Plus
and then we got to go back on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We got a lot going on.
Cool.
You forgot about that.
Yeah. And to enter that grand prize giveaway, waterboxaquariums.com/inspire. That'll get you all the details on the whole event as well.
Yep. So we are talking Living Reef today. Their beautiful, huge display aquarium in their store. But as a absolutely awesome thing, they are here and they're going to be doing Q&A with us afterwards. So start dropping your questions in the chat. They're here to answer your questions live, and the guys will be grabbing those throughout the stream. So just throw them on into that chat.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of that, you guys. If you got questions about their tank, or anything Living Reef related, I guess.
Yeah.
Definitely put them in the comments below because they took some time out of their busy day to come here. So we really appreciate that. So again, drop your questions below.
Yes.
All right. Sales?
Yep.
If you guys don't know already, sales are going on from April 15th all the way to the 22nd. Definitely take advantage of those. Those sales are going on in the U.S., Canada, Europe, and the United Kingdom until the 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern.
11:59.
To be exact.
We've been saying midnight, so I guess that is technically wrong. It's right before
1 minute
midnight.
behind. Yeah.
Yes.
So we did. If you guys didn't miss, or if you missed the first day of the event, we launched 27 new products.
Yeah. No. We call it 3. It's actually way more than that. We launched multiple new products, and if you missed it, definitely check out the first stream that we did on Monday because we go into depth about each of the products. Mm-hmm. First one is the FLED. It's a freshwater LED lighting system. Mm-hmm. And this is tons of great features to it. Controls, fully programmable, practically waterproof. What's the rating?
IP68.
IP68.
It's one of the highest ratings,
yes.
by the way.
Don't go like swimming with it, but
some people already said they're going to go scuba diving with it. So
let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's worth a shot. I'm very excited about that product. It's a really great light. You guys, if you tuned in yesterday, you saw it on the tanks that we have set up here. It's now included on the Eden. Mm-hmm. The Eden Generation 2. So if you're picking up an Eden, you're going to get that FLED included with it. There it is there. And it's also included with the all-in-one 10 and 15 now. So the all-in-one 10 and 15 is a fully ready to set up all-in-one. So.
All right, and the next big one, the baby that we've been working on for practically 2 years to go along with the Waterbox Reef Salt is the saltwater and freshwater full line of supplements. So. Yep. Do check that out. They're all on the website, different categories, and you've got everything from your core elements like alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, coral food, filter media, starter bacteria, coral dip, and then of course for the freshwater, we've got the medias, water conditioner, and a carbon dosing liquid. So definitely check those out. Something we've designed and worked on for a very long time to make sure it fits exactly kind of like the Waterbox method of how we run aquariums.
I never could have imagined how long it would take to release those, but when you look at how many SKUs there are, I guess.
Yeah, gotta have it perfect before you launch it.
Yeah. Took a long time. And last but not least, our new protein skimmers. This is another one that took a while. We've been working on these for a long time. They are live in the USA. They'll soon be live in Canada as well. They're available for pre-order. They're shipping later, I think in
like May 15th, roughly.
May 15th,
I think is roughly the date.
maybe the end of May. So they are available for order now. Take advantage of that. They're also included in the Plus edition, and you can use them. You can also configure them on the other Waterbox pages as well.
Yep. So 57 different products have been released. Definitely go check them out. You know, everything that we come up with, new product aquariums, everything is very tried and tested for a long time before we bring it to you to kind of match exactly what Waterbox represents. So those all fall into that category. You will love all of them. So definitely give them
Sometimes
a
it's a little frustrating too how long it takes, right?
Yeah. No, when the salt was announced, pretty sure that day you said chemistry is coming soon, and that was like almost 2 years ago.
Oops.
So yeah, things definitely do take a lot of time. Oh yeah, you did mention that one a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So again, you guys, the all-in-one cube and Peninsula include the FLAD. A little bit different on these now because you guys know of the original 10 and 15. Well, we more or less brand new product. It's clear silicone, and each one includes the appropriate FLAD system with it as well, pump, filter media, etc. So those are in stock now, too.
So I know we've done a lot of streams with Living Reef Orlando. We've had them on a lot. We've gone there a lot. You've seen them on Blue Fridays. You know, we're very lucky to have them local to us. They're absolutely awesome. So if you've ever been to their retail store, there is a display aquarium when you walk in that's absolutely breathtaking. And you'd have to stop and look at it. I don't think you can walk past it without stopping. And that's what we're kind of focusing on today, is such a large reef aquarium.
Yeah.
So we're talking about that today. But first I want to mention that they've also been kind enough to give us a discount code to give you guys to go shop on their website, check out all their beautiful corals. So 15% off. Use that code at checkout.
Take advantage of that.
At livingreeforlando.com.
That's a big deal. They have a very extensive selection of corals and very reliable source as well. So definitely
we actually
take advantage.
did recently an unboxing with corals from them for the Marine X 110.
Yep.
We've done
a number
ton
of
of streams with them. So
I do want to mention too, oddly enough, one of my favorite things about this stream is that this is not a water box.
yeah, that's true.
We always highlight water boxes, right? But the purpose of this event is to inspire you guys, whether it's to set up a huge reef tank or a freshwater tank. This tank is inspiring, and that's why we wanted to share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to, yes?
Beforehand, I'm getting a lot of people asking how do they enter into the giveaway.
Okay.
If you want to just go to the website real quick and
Yep.
we can show them how to do that.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys are asking how you enter into the giveaway, and I'm assuming you're talking about this specific episode.
Yes.
There's two giveaways. There's the grand prize giveaway, which is right there, waterboxaquariums.com/inspire. You're going to click that button, put in some information, you're good to go there. And for this particular stream, there's 3 $500 gift cards that we're giving away. And you're going to scroll down, and you're going to go right there. It says, this is truly a living reef. Hit that green and blue button, and that's where you're going to fill out the information for this stream. It does close at 6:45 on the dot, so 6:45 Eastern.
And each stream, each day in the stream has its own giveaway. So this is just for this one, and we'll announce the winners at the end. Tomorrow we'll have its own giveaway.
Yeah.
So this is specific to this stream right here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hopefully that clears up any confusion. Go to the website. It's right there. And you have roughly, I shouldn't do math, 36.
35
I have
minutes.
34 minutes or something. I looked, I was like, oh, that's a 9. I don't know. To go enter into that.
6:45
6:45. It closes.
Eastern, to be specific.
Yeah, I think so.
Are we ready to watch this video?
We're ready.
All
Cool.
right.
Let's do
so
it.
here's a video all about Living Reef's display aquarium.
What's up, fish heads? Welcome to the first annual Waterbox Aquariums Inspire event. We're here at Living Reef Orlando with Alex and Ann to show you this amazing 1,000-gallon mixed reef aquarium.
Let's check it out.
All right, Alex, thank you so much for having us here. We're going to talk about your beautiful large reef aquarium here at the store Living Reef Orlando. But first, let's learn a little bit about like where your hobby experience started, Living Reef, how it started, and kind of some of the history.
So I started like a lot of people as a hobbyist around 20 years ago, I would say, like my first reef tank. And it just grew from there. You know, I fell in love with it. So little by little, another tank, more corals, another tank, trade corals, sell corals, all the normal stuff. And then I got into the industry about maybe 12, 13 years ago, professionally. And the rest is history. Living Reef is now under my ownership, 8 years in the running. And it's been open about 12, but I've owned it 8 of those 12. And, you know, hopefully we got another
50?
long road ahead of us. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay, I want to know, what was your first reef aquarium? What size was it?
So it was actually pretty big. A lot of people don't start big, but my first tank was, if I'm not mistaken, it was around 200 gallons.
You didn't start small.
No.
You just dove right on in.
I dove right in. I tend to do that. So.
Was your general like first experience pretty good as far as positive?
You know, I think everybody takes some bumps in the road. I definitely experienced a lot of the normal stuff, you know, issues with fish and corals and learning how to quarantine fish and quarantine corals and stuff like that. But it was still enjoyable, you know. And then once I started figuring it out, obviously from there it becomes a lot more fun.
The addiction was real.
Yeah.
All right, so we have your absolutely stunning. Anyone who's seen your store has seen this beautiful large display. Tell me about the size of it, some dimensions. How long has this one been in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been up about 5 years. It's had a couple different, you know, iterations, I guess you could say. Right now, everything that's in there is about 2 years old. So we started it about 5 years ago. And then when we started our farm about 2.5, 3 years ago, we basically ripped everything out of the tank. And we left like encrustment when it came to the acros and, you know, maybe small frags. And everything that's there now, like all those large colonies and everything, grew back in those 2 years into what it looks like now.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. It's done well. And so in terms of size, the display is a little under 800 gallons.
Woo!
I think it's 780 something to be exact. We got about another 300 gallons in the sump. So total system volume is about 1,000. And then the tank is 11 feet long, 42 inches deep, and 30 inches tall.
Dream size for most people.
Yeah,
huge is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
That depth from front to back is really, really nice.
Yeah, that always makes a tank.
Yeah. So before you took everything out like 2 years ago to move to the farm, was it pretty much the same thing for those first 3 years, or?
Pretty much. We initially cycled the aquarium, set it up, added, you know, all the fish and stuff, gave it like 6 months, and then little by little we started doing, you know, soft corals, LPS, and then at about the year mark we started putting SPS and Acropora in there, and we just let it grow. So at that 3 year mark, when we did kind of rip everything out, it was pretty well grown in, and it was a little different. This time we kind of let the colonies just get really big.
Yeah.
So there's not as much, you know, in terms of maybe the variety, but we think it looks really cool that it's just really big colonies. So the first go around, it was just a ton of frags. Like everywhere you looked, it was a frag. So when it started growing in, it was just smaller mini colonies everywhere.
Yeah.
And now it's more just, you know, big colonies.
And that's what makes it so impressive. I think if you look at it and it just looks completely natural, like from the reef and the ocean, like huge colonies, some of them are intermingling.
Correct.
Some have crossed borders and stung a little bit, but you know, that's how it really works when you have big colonies growing out. So for right now on this one, what is your like lighting and filtration setup?
So right now it's running 10 Ecotech Radions.
XR30?
XR30s, yep, XR30 Pros. It also has T5s in it. We used to supplement with the T5s. And about 2 years ago, we had a hard time getting bulbs. And so I turned them off because the bulbs were a little older and they just never turned back on. And the tank just, you know, nothing changed. The tank kept on growing. Everything kept on doing well. So now it's just full LED, the 10 Radion XR30 Pros. And yeah, it's done amazing.
Wow, so you didn't notice really any difference with the T5s? No?
Not huge, maybe a slight bit of shading on some of the acros.
Okay.
Especially since they're starting to get big. But we haven't had like any basis recede from not getting enough light or any issues like that.
Not much color change in the coral?
No, not too much, no.
That's pretty good to know. Yeah. For filtration-wise, return flow, skimmer, all of that, what do you got going on? So
it's got a total of 8 vortex in it. 2 MP60s, so 1 MP60 on each side, and then a bunch of MP40s in the back. Since it is so deep, it's almost 4 feet deep. So a bunch of MP40s to supplement in the back. Some are kind of hidden in between the rock work and stuff like that. It runs 3 Vectra L2 pumps, 2 for returns. So 1 pump for each side of the tank, basically.
Okay.
And then 1 that's a manifold pump, which runs the reactors, the UV sterilizer, like all the auxiliary filtration. And then, massive skimmer. It's got a huge Nio skimmer in it. Reactors, so carbon reactor, GFO reactor, 10 filter socks, so a lot of mechanical filtration, 10 filter socks, and and a refugium. And other than that, that's pretty much it. A big calcium reactor, obviously, because it's a big tank, but we tend to keep it pretty simple in terms of like the core filtration. Everybody runs their tanks a little different. Some people might do a ton of fish and boost up the filtration real heavy. Some people are a little lighter on the fish. We tend to go a little lighter on the fish and try to keep it a little bit more natural with just the skimmer and the refugium and stuff like that. And then it's got, an apex monitoring everything. So it's got a controller that takes care of the tank and all that stuff.
That's a lot of filtration. So when you have a big aquarium you're planning, you just be warned you're going to need a ton of power heads and flow and light and everything. That's a lot.
Yeah, big tank, big lights, big flow.
And you said there's also a UV sterilizer on there?
There's a big 120 watt UV sterilizer in the tank as well.
I know that's something kind of like people question a lot about UV sterilizers. Do you run it 24/7 or only as needed?
We do run it 24/7. Some people run it as needed, but and some people even run it like maybe half the day. But it does degrade the bulbs a little bit to run it that way. So we've always run all our UVs full time.
Okay.
We haven't really seen any negative effects. We still have a ton of microfauna and pods and all the normal stuff you should have in a tank. So we keep it running like that. And, we never really see a lot of the things that kind of happen in tanks, like the cyano or the diatoms, the dinoflagellates, like all that type of stuff seems to stay at bay quite a bit with a big UV, and not to mention obviously the fish. So, fish parasites, things like that.
Nice. So you see the benefits definitely outweigh any possible reduction of microfauna with
And you can always supplement. You can always throw pods in the tank. You could always, you can dose phyto, you can do this, you can do that. So I guess we fall into the category where we think it's better to just have it running all the time. And if we think we have to replace something, do it, then not run it. You know?
Sounds good. On such a large aquarium, like what are considerations that you take into place for lighting and filtration? Like when planning it and developing, just do it right kind of from the first.
Right. So, like we were saying, big tank, big lights, big flow. Most people, when they're building their first big aquarium, at least like something like this, maybe 500-600 gallons or bigger. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. And so, when we take over service accounts, or sometimes, we go to help a customer who's got a big tank, we normally see that. We see that it doesn't have enough flow. It doesn't have enough light. The skimmer's undersized, things like that. So generally with these big tanks, what you think, it probably needs about 25% more.
Okay, that's a good rule.
So, obviously there's recommendations on all the dry goods and, gallons per hour and this, that, but it's always better to have a little bit more and have that wiggle room than to not have it. So, another thing is like, when tanks are a lot taller, like this is already 32 inches tall, the light doesn't penetrate the same. So technically this tank would look like it was lit with maybe, 8 lights or 6 lights, but the par wouldn't be sufficient for all the corals. So we end up having, a light right next to another light, right next to another light, but it's to have it penetrate the 32 inches and get all the way down and still have sufficient par for everything, in the sand bed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just, with a big tank comes a lot of equipment, a lot of, stuff. And budgeting for all that is obviously important too. The tank is the easy part. It's the more affordable part. Once the equipment starts kicking in, that's where it adds up. So I always tell everybody, instead of trying to build the biggest tank you can possibly build for your budget, save a lot of that budget for all the equipment and everything else, and build that tank, and it'll definitely run a lot better, do a lot better than a big tank that's not
filtered enough because you ran out of money.
Stuff like exactly.
That's a good advice. Has like the choice in filtration, lights, or like flow or anything changed really in those 5 years?
We added a couple more power heads as tanks grow in, especially like an SPS tank. Like, well, it's a mixed reef, but it's SPS heavy.
Yeah.
You start needing flow. The more dead spots start, being created with the colonies growing and stuff like that. So we've added a little flow. You know, we've moved things around throughout time. You know, maybe this power head, move it up a little bit, or move this one off to the side. You know, raise the intensity, stuff like that. Right. And that's pretty much it. Like, we haven't had to do too much or add too much. You know, obviously we've been doing it a long time. So once we kind of plan a build, we try to plan it for the future and have it ready to go for the, you know, the duration of the life of the tank. So
and that goes into when you plan your filtration, start with more than you think you're going to need, because now look at you 5 years later, you know, you're not trading out every power head and upgrading lights. So you're doing it right from the beginning. Makes a lot less cost in the long run of having to replace stuff.
And old, you know, you mentioned the time, old tank syndrome is like a real thing. You know, as tanks mature, the nutrients are going to, you know, go up. The tanks are going to run a little dirtier. You're going to need a little bit more to keep it, you know, running kind of where you want it in terms of the nutrients and stuff like that. So it's always better to definitely, you know, have more and plan for the future. Do
you have the same rock in here that's been here since the beginning? Mostly?
It is. Yeah, no, it's all the same rock. It's never been touched since the beginning.
Wow.
So we plucked corals off but all the same rock.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a Haitian rock, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the prettiest rocks you can get. Unfortunately, we're not able to.
Can't get it anymore.
Nope. But to me, it's always been the prettiest rock.
That was the best choice years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
For this large of aquarium, especially with keeping SPS, what does your maintenance routine look on this?
We do weekly water changes pretty much on all our systems.
Okay.
We believe, you know, the stability is a lot better doing a small water change every week versus doing a larger one maybe once a month or every 2 weeks. So it's about 1,000 gallons, and we change about 50 gallons every week.
Oh, so a very small percent.
Not anything crazy. We change about 50 gallons. And then once a month it gets the carbon and the GFO replaced.
Okay.
Sometimes we don't run carbon, so you know it might be running really clean, and we skip the carbon that month, or you know even skip the GFO that month. It happens, so we adjust that stuff depending on how the tank is running. You know, we're open 7 days a week, so obviously the tank gets the normal stuff. You know, the magnet cleaner every day, every morning. You know, we make sure the sand bed is nice and clean, move that around or siphon that if we have to. You know, once it starts getting this full, there's a lot of maintenance with the corals. You know, they're growing into each other, things like that. So we're fragging, pulling stuff out, moving stuff sometimes to keep everybody happy and hopefully not have them sting each other too much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's not too bad. I would say probably the hardest thing is if you're not super tall like me, getting 32 inches down to work on the tank isn't fun. Usually it's, you know, when we're closed and shirts off and we're going
You're halfway
in.
diving into it.
Yeah, we're
I'm short. I feel this on every aquarium that we have and have to take care of. So for like dosing and testing, what's your routine for that?
So we test twice a week. That's for the whole store. So this tank included. We test twice a week. And we test pretty much all the main stuff. So salinity does get checked every day throughout the store. We just check it real quick. But then on test days, it's calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, nitrates, and phosphates. So those 5. There's a couple other things you can test, but usually once a tank's been running for a long time, you don't really have to worry about ammonia or nitrite or any of that stuff. We send out ICPs like every 6 months if we can. So we try to send out an ICP, and usually they come back good. So we haven't done too much adjusting there, and that's about it. You know, we don't have to do too much. So
dosing regimen.
So dosing, it's got a big calcium reactor.
Okay.
Lately it hasn't been keeping up, and it's a pretty big reactor, but there's a lot of coral in there. So we supplement with 2-part if we have to.
Okay.
But it's got a big calcium reactor. It runs reborn media from 2 little fishies and remag for the mag.
Okay.
And then we supplement. We do dose a lot of the normal stuff, so like amino acids.
Right.
So we dose acro power in the tank. We feed the tank, you know, different coral foods. It's usually Benepets, Reefroids, some reef nutrition stuff, like maybe Phyto Feast, things like that.
Okay.
Oyster Feast. And, you know, that's for the corals and the inverts and the fish. And that's pretty much it. That's all the dosing that gets done.
So actually the maintenance sounds pretty reasonable on such a large aquarium.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, it's, you know, there's several people helping take care of it, obviously. So that kind of helps. But if you can automate as much as possible, like how this tank is, dosers and calcium reactor and stuff like that, it definitely obviously helps.
And generally having good maintenance, or not maintenance, equipment,
Yeah.
good flow to keep dead spots and detritus from building up. You've got a big skimmer. That all helps with not having to do massive water changes to keep up with the nutrients as well.
Yep.
All right. So the calcium reactor is not keeping up. Like, what hints or telltale signs are there that your calcium reactor is not enough?
Yeah. So like I was saying, we test every twice a week, every 3 days or so, and when the tank really started growing in about a year ago, it just wasn't enough, and we kept on like more burn, but it just kind of stopped being able to do any more at that point, just because there was so much coral in it. There's one size bigger, maybe hindsight we should have gone with that one, but it's a pretty massive calcium reactor that's in there. It's rated for like 1,600 gallons.
Wow.
But we just have to supplement the calcium and alkalinity, for.
So the calcium reactor physically just can't buffer up that much that is being used.
Right. It's tapped out. So.
I guess which I probably can't tell because you have the calcium reactor running, but like how much like calcium is daily uptake on this?
If I had to guess, if we were to, by what we dose, which we're dosing about 200 to 300 mLs a day still on top of the calcium reactor to keep up with it. If I had to guess, I mean, this tank would probably, and that's pretty concentrated 2-part, it would probably consume well over 1,000 mLs a day of calcium and alkalinity if it didn't have the reactor.
Yeah, so I mean, calcium reactors aren't like super common in the hobby, but when you have this big of an aquarium and you're running SPS, there really wouldn't be any other choice.
No,
you would be spending a mortgage payment in 2-part.
Yeah, I definitely, I think for smaller tanks, dosing 2-part is still the way, you know? So anything under maybe 300 gallons, I would always tell a customer to just dose 2-part. You can control it a lot more.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a little spike, it's not as bad. Like if you don't know how to tune a calcium reactor, it can get away from you. Yeah, it can get away from you pretty quick. So, but once you're getting into the bigger tanks, definitely it's pretty amazing to have. Yeah.
So put that in your budget if you're getting a big aquarium.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so Anne, you're joining us because you're the fish and coral expert here. So this is in your realm. We're going to talk about what goes into this beautiful display aquarium. Okay. Let's talk about coral first.
All right.
How did you make your choices on what goes in here, and kind of just an overrun of what are some of the things that you keep in here?
Okay. So we decided to do mixed reef. So me and Alex's passion has always been SPS. So we knew from the beginning that we really wanted to cater this tank to grow and let Acropora flourish. So the heavy flow, heavy lighting, like you had discussed before. But a lot of people really love to see the movement of soft corals and LPS. And I honestly just love it all. So I wanted to be able to incorporate everything in there. It does get a little tough because your tank has different levels, right? You have your highlight on the top, you have your high flow in certain areas. And so being able to put certain corals in the right areas so to where they're not getting too much light or too much flow can be a little bit challenging, which is a lot of the reasons why we built this tank in the dimensions that we did, is because we just wanted to be able to accommodate everything. So originally we started out with some zoanthids, some bounce mushrooms, some soft corals, and then we let those settle in for a couple weeks, make sure that the tank is stable, and then we incorporated some LPS, like hammers and torches that everybody loves.
Did you handpick exactly which ones?
Yes, we did. So we always wanted to put in what our go-to is always hey, we love this one. We think it would be, a great addition to the aquarium. And a lot of it too is planning out shapes and colors.
Yes.
We don't want a bunch of greens together. We don't want a bunch of oranges together. And you also have to think about how it's going to look when it grows in. You don't want to put a tabling acro right next to a chalice that they might grow in together or something. So a lot of that comes into, where you're going to put these things, what type of requirements on lighting and flow that they need, and just the color and the movements and stuff.
Yeah. So even in a huge aquarium that have tons of space, you still have to be very cautious and careful where you place everything.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So what is the most rare coral that's in here?
So I would say it's probably our Mardi Gras convict chalice. I haven't seen any in the hobby in a long time.
Okay.
It's not a particularly easy coral to grow to begin with. So I think that's a lot of the reasons why it's considered rare too. It's this convict chalice that we had originally imported as a mariculture from Indonesia about 7 years ago,
Wow.
and it has the most insane colors. It's like a holographic pink and orange, and it's got like this green and purple understriping to it.
Very nice.
It's just amazing.
So what makes it more difficult to grow? What have you found with it?
It just doesn't grow. It doesn't grow. It bleaches out easy.
Oh,
Any
Lord.
little shift in parameter pisses it off.
So for a chalice, like usually chalices are pretty easy going.
Yeah, this one is just, it's so gorgeous. And I think it just knows and it wants to keep its rarity. So it's like, no, I want to give you one eye a year.
So this is not one that is available from you guys even, or is it?
Maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a highly sought after piece if it is
Yes.
available.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. That might be the most rare. Which one is your favorite though?
Probably that one. And then we do have a Lobo that's on the sand bed that's actually become one of my favorite corals in there too. It's recently started to pick up some purple grafts from, I don't know what coral, but it didn't have it before. It was just a really bright orange with like this teal rim. And then probably about 8 or 9 months ago, it started to get these little purple flecks in it.
Interesting.
And it's amazing.
Turning out really, really
Yeah.
nice. That's so funny that you'd pick like the most rare and your favorite are not SPS that are in there.
So Alex mentioned before that a year in, we put a lot of SPS frags in there. When we started the farm, the SPS had grown in a lot. And so we actually cut the colonies out and then we seeded our farm with those. And a lot of what's grown back in is encrustments of what was left on there. So my favorite SPS that we originally put in there is no longer in there.
Oh, okay.
But we had some pretty crazy stuff in there before.
So now it's you're growing it so you can make available to others.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the coral. How about fish-wise? Like, how did you choose your fish? What's in there?
So we always go big or go home. Our first 2 fish in this aquarium was actually our gem tang
Oh, God.
and our koi tang. So they were the first 2 fish that went in. And we kind of got a little bit of heat for doing that because everybody's like, oh, you're going to put those tangs in first. They're going to be super aggressive.
Yeah.
But we knew that we wanted those 2 in there. So like if we weren't allowed to put any other tangs in there, we would actually be okay with it.
Okay.
But for stocking wise, we definitely always recommend like plan out your tangs, like get a list of what you want, stock from the hardiest and the least aggressive first. We were just, if those were the only 2 we could put in there, we were happy with it. So, and they deserved a bigger home. They had been living in our frag tanks for such a long time. And
So it's kind of like these are our dream fish to go in here. If you don't want to put them in later in case someone is aggressive towards them, you'd rather them be
in
kings in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a very risky move. Those are
It is.
very
It is.
expensive
We
tangs.
tend to, our thing is always like, hey, we're going to get it. We're going to get it going.
We're
and
doing
this
it.
is what we're going to do.
All right, cool. What other some cool stuff that's in there?
So there's actually a China wrasse that you don't see very often in there that I love. You don't see a lot of white on fish.
No, yeah.
And then he's got like this beautiful white color with like these blue markings on him. We have some leopard wrasses in there.
Those are very cool.
They all went in as females. Some of them have transitioned to males, so it's been really awesome to see them like pair up and go through that transition.
Those are a little bit harder to keep too.
Yeah, we have a really deep sand bed and we have a ton of pods in there, so they live their best life in that aquarium.
They're happy. There's some other very large. Who's the big guy that's in there?
So he's actually my favorite fish. That's the Deucimiri. When I was about 15, I saw a picture of him on the internet and I told myself one day I'm going to have a tank big enough to have one of these fish. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about saltwater aquariums. But when he came in, he was super skinny, super shy, wouldn't eat. And so we went through months and months of training, like hand feeding him seaweed, trying to rubber band it to a rock and throwing it under the frag rack so he wouldn't be scared. And now he will literally eat out of your hands. And he's probably one of the friendliest fishes.
So he's like actually your baby.
Yes, I love him.
You raised him
He
up.
picks on some of our coral, but I'm like, no,
Does
he can stay in there. Yeah.
Oh, bad tang.
It's worth it.
Okay, so you said your favorite one in there is
the Deucimiri. So he's the blue one with the little yellow striping.
Okay. And the most rare between gem tang and koi, what do you think?
The koi is definitely the most rare. The gems, they used to be more rare. Now you can
get them pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Koi tangs are still pretty.
They're still extremely
very hard to find.
Yeah.
Also.
And our koi, so our gem and our koi, They have been with Living Reef from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And they were already a pretty good size. So, I mean, they've been with us 12 years.
Dang, nice.
So.
Speaking of the fish, like what is your feeding regimen for them? For obviously healthy fish that are going to live a long time, what do you do on a daily basis
so
for
we
feeding?
feed 2 to 3 times a day, kind of just depending on where our nutrient levels are at. They get seaweed every day.
Very
so
important.
with just how big they are, we do a full sheet on each clip. So we actually have 2 clips in there, and then we just do a full sheet of seaweed every day. And then, like I said, just 2 or 3 times a day on the frozen food, just depending on where our nutrient levels are.
Just a mix of mysis and veggie blends and stuff for your
Yeah,
frozen?
we feed a little bit of everything. LRS, Rod's Food, Piscine mysis.
Okay.
And then sometimes we throw in like a little bit of plankton and brine shrimp.
Speaking of that, I know Alex touched on it a little bit, but coral feeding. Do you, on this size aquarium, go in and spot feed it all? Or do we just straight just put it in there and everyone fends for themselves?
So most of the time it's broadcast,
Okay.
but there are times where like we want to give the tank a little bit of TLC, so we turn all the pumps off, and it is really rewarding to spot feed just because like the feeding response on some of these corals are so cool to watch. So we do like to do that. We don't do it as often as we would like to, but maybe once every couple of weeks.
Okay, that's still pretty good. That's, I mean, for you, like I said, Lobos and you're a larger LPS, I'm sure they really, really appreciate that. Well, we talked about how about 2 years ago, this pretty much got all emptied and sent to the farm and it's growing out. Do you frag off of this regularly to move to the farm or offer for frags?
So we don't anymore.
Okay.
Originally, when this aquarium was set up, we didn't have our farm yet. So it was a working tank.
Okay.
We would glue in corals, and as they got bigger, or because we put all of our rarest pieces in there. So if we needed to frag, you know, we would get in there, shoulders, sleeves wet everywhere, and then we would frag out of it. But when we started the farm and we moved a lot of the brood stock over there, whatever grew in, we haven't had to frag out of there in a while.
So it's a true display now. That's why everything is so
massive.
Actually, yeah, that is the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
So, okay, people are watching, maybe they're thinking about getting an aquarium or moving into a bigger one, but for an overall advice, what would be your like number one key to success with the Reef Aquarium?
Definitely stability. So as we mentioned before, you know, our passion has always been acropora, and a lot of people associate SPS obviously stands for small polyp stony, but a lot of people represent it as stability promotes success as well.
I've not heard that. That's really good.
I heard it from somewhere about 10 years ago, and it's always just stuck in my head.
Okay.
And it just works for everything. Like the more stable your aquarium is, the better everybody's going to do. You know, obviously the first couple of months, like the first 6 months is always very touch and go. You're going to have pH fluctuations. Your bacterial load is growing and it's trying to process the intake of food and fish waste and stuff like that. So, you know, at the beginning, just test often, don't feed too heavy, really let your rocks and your sand get established with that microfauna and the bacteria and the biological filtration. But stability, test often, you know, you're going to know like how much consumption your tank is going to go through. Right now, with the amount of corals in there, we're dumping so much food in there that like, it's processing the food so fast, especially with like the soft corals and the acros, like they're really going to absorb those nitrates and those phosphates. So, you know, we still try to be careful. We're not like negligent, just throwing a bunch of food in there, but you kind of learn your aquarium as you go too.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Now, considerations for something this large.
So I'm 5 foot tall on a good day. It's very deep.
Yes.
So, you know, it's 42 inches front to back, 32 inches tall. So I can't reach the bottom unless I put a scuba mask on and I'm like in there. We have these really long tongs that help us out a lot, like the little grabbers. But a lot of it too is just coral placement. Like if you know that like, hey, you don't want to be in and out of this aquarium all the time, you need to put that coral and you need to imagine how it's going to look when it's grown out, because you don't want to have to move it.
No.
So, you know, some of the chalices, like they've grown out. We're like, oh, you know, it's starting to get a little stingy. And so sometimes we have to move some stuff. But, you know, when the tank is so big, you don't want to have to just get in there all the time. So just be a little bit mindful, like your rock work and like where you're going to glue these things if you want it to stay there permanently.
Yeah, I don't care how tall you are. If your tank is 42 and 30 something, no, you're not reaching halfway through. I don't care how big you are.
We've lost a couple of frags actually from like some snails knocking it over, and it's like way in the back of
And
the
you
tank
just
under a rock.
know.
You're like, well, if you live, you live. You die, you die.
There's a shed of light right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you're trying to rip out a lot. It's just not worth it. Awesome. What is the biggest challenge you think you've faced during the 5 years with this large aquarium?
I would say the aspect of the mixed reef. So, you know, soft corals are going to want a little bit dirtier water, lower lighting, less flow. The acropora are always going to want higher flow, higher lighting. You know, the tank is tall, but when everything starts to grow in, it's kind of like you can't move it anymore. And finding that right balance of calcium alkalinity levels, especially nitrate and phosphate levels, and just making sure everybody is happy with those nutrient levels and where those parameters are at, I think has been our biggest challenge. You know, we always feel like our soft corals kind of want the nitrates around 10 to 15. And then the acros are like, nah, I'd rather it be 5 and 10. So trying to get everybody acclimated into the same parameters has been a little bit of a challenge. And I feel like that's almost kind of why everybody who does acros just stick with acros. And people who do LPS just stick with LPS and softies. And then the flow too, you know, we've had to add a couple power heads in the back just because the acro colonies have gotten so big and we want
a lot of flow,
the flow under the branches. But then it's like the bubble corals like, so that's probably been the most challenging. We've been really lucky with this tank too. We've never really had any issues with the fish, like no aggression issues. And the tank was so big that like, it's just now getting to where some of the corals are starting to sting each other just because they're so large. But before we had so much room and like, you know, a blank slate to, you know, let's just move this over here or move this over there. But yeah, the lighting and flow and parameters and just making sure everybody was happy. It was definitely a little tough.
That definitely on the size, you know, as everything grows in, you can't just move or do anything. Now, I know nothing has really changed in here for about 2 years. Do you think you will add anything else, fish or coral wise, or is it going to be don't touch, a good thing and just leave it be for however long?
It kind of almost depends on the day. Like, you know, I would like to maybe add a little bit more schooling fish, but everybody's so happy in there. And it's always that one fish that tips the scale. Like everybody's established. We haven't added any new fish in 2 years. And it's almost like you don't want to be greedy because it's like, well, if I add these, it could disrupt, you know, the cycle. But I would like to see a little bit more movement. As far as corals, you know, sometimes we add like a, you know, if we get like a special frag, something that we want to grow out or keep, you know, we'll throw it in there.
Okay. Yeah, doing a fish after 2 years and everyone's healthy and there's no disease. That's really, really risky, especially with how big those are because they could annihilate some newcomers.
Whatever gets added in there.
And thank you so much for showing us this beautiful display aquarium. And Living Reef is always a joy to visit. But please let our viewers know, where can they find you guys?
So we do have a website. You can check us out at www.livingreeforlando.com. If we have anybody that's local to the Orlando area, we also have a retail store. We are in the Waterford Lakes Town Center, right down the street from UCF. If you're not local to us, obviously check out our website, follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's just Living Reef Orlando. We do ship anywhere in the continental US. We do live sales about once a month. You can check us out on Reef to Reef and sign up for our email and our text campaigns and stay up to the latest and greatest at LRO.
Perfect. You want to see all the beautiful stuff that they have to offer, definitely check out their website. And thank you so much again for having us.
Thank you.
There you go.
Woo!
Excellent interview.
There was so much great information. And don't forget, drop your questions into the chat because we are going to be asking. Thank you, Alex and Ann, so much for coming. So great to have you guys here for actual live Q&A, which is such a great feature for our audience to be able to have. And letting us just take up your time and come visit you guys all the time.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go through some Q&A from the chat during the video.
Yeah.
I got a mix of Q&A from the chat and just someone their expertise, so we'll go through it and see what we got.
I'm going to pick their brains today.
Rich, you read them out. Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't know they were up.
Steve says, what's the best skimmer for the 15 Peninsula?
We like the Tunzi skimmers a lot. I believe the little one fits in the 15, right? The little 901 does. Yeah, we like those probably the best. Yeah,
cool.
They work really good.
Thank you, Steve. Is the 10 cube saltwater coming back? That's probably a question for us. No plans.
Not this time.
Yeah. 20 and 25. That's the ticket for that. How many XR15 G6 Pros for a 60-25 Peninsula tank, all LPS?
3?
Yeah, probably 3 to 4, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
Like what you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Would it be better for them to go 30s or stick with 15s?
So the 60-25 is what, 25 wide, right?
Yeah.
5 feet.
So if they're gonna do acros, then maybe the 30s turned the other way so that it spreads across the width of the tank.
Okay.
But if it's gonna be a mixed reef, I think XR15s are okay. I would say just do 4 to be on the safe side.
There you go.
Nice.
From the Radeon Pros.
I feel very silly, but I have no idea what the protein skimmers are.
Oh man.
So the protein skimmers are actually, removes the proteins. So it's going to be this sort of conal body.
I mean, there's different shapes and sizes, but
Yeah.
essentially, I guess the best way to explain it, right? A cool way to explain it. If you've ever been to the beach, right, and the waves are crashing, and it's a bunch of like ugly kind of stinky
Bubbles.
foam,
The
right?
foam,
The
yeah.
foam
Brown
all over
foam,
the beach.
yeah.
That's foam fractionation. So that's what we do in a protein skimmer.
replicating
We
that,
replicate that
yeah.
with a pump and a needle wheel impeller, and we take the air, inject it, and basically take
You know
all
what's
the.
funny? I've seen some videos posted on like aquarium groups or whatever it may be, and it's people playing in like this massive amount of foam.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
aquarium people are like, oh God, why are you doing that?
We know what it is. That's why.
Yeah, I taught my kids that at a very young age. Don't play in that,
That's
man.
waste
That's
right
protein.
there.
That's
Yeah,
skimming.
that's all the fish poop. Yeah.
Will Waterbox have a booth at Reefapalooza Orlando 2024? No, we will not.
But
But
we will have
yes.
Waterbox tanks
Yes.
Yeah.
at the Living Reef Orlando.
Yeah, so visit Reefapalooza. Living Reef's gonna have a booth for all their beautiful corals and stuff. But they will also have some
Right.
Waterbox stuff there also.
So, so we have 2 booths. We have a dry goods booth and then a like a livestock booth with the
One-stop
corals.
shop. You don't even have to visit anyone else.
So-
go to Reefapalooza,
Yep.
go to their booth, and then leave.
Another really cool thing about that, you guys, is they're going to be displaying some of our new products that we announced this week.
Yeah, I
too.
think we
So
got some of the new
definitely,
skimmers and stuff
Yep.
like
Yep.
that. Yep.
So go check it out.
Pros or blues?
Ooh.
You want to grab it?
Man, we're heavy blues. We love the blues. We love the UVs. For us, we chase color over growth.
Yeah.
Your corals can grow as fast as they want to, but they don't have color. Nobody's going to want them.
Yeah.
So our mentality has always been get the best color that you can. So we run heavy blues. We do run a couple hours of the full spectrum on our aquariums, but we definitely recommend the blues.
Yeah,
for sure.
the pros for the acros, I think they definitely tend to be a little better because you need that par and stuff, and there's a
Yeah.
lot more white. But for like any mixed reef, especially if you're only gonna have SPS up top, it's hard to beat the blues. It's just
Yeah,
you
we
get
always
so
use
much
the blues
pop.
on
Yeah,
everything. They're so
yeah, you get so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
pop, and color on other corals.
Yeah, I agree. Color is where it's at. Any recommendations on power head location for nano tanks?
So we, I guess it depends on what it is. When it's a cube, I like to put it on the back if I can. Like if it's got a magnet where the magnet can be underwater, I like the power head in the back. So let's say the return nozzle's on the left, I'll throw the power head on the right side of the back tank.
Right.
If it's a longer tank, like let's say the Peninsula, you might want to do 2. You might want to have one on one side, one on the other if they're smaller pumps like Nero 3s or something. But for most of them, I think the back is the ticket because then the sides are, don't have any pumps or anything.
Yeah, there's
on it.
not a lot
Super
of real
clean.
estate there, so you want to
Yeah.
keep them clean.
Yeah.
For sure. How do you overcome with any element swings in such a large tank?
So our emphasis has always been to test. We never recommend adding or dosing anything into your aquarium unless you're testing for that specific element, whether it be calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. Some people go in and they dose nitrates as well, phosphates as well, iodine. You always want to test. In the event that you do accidentally put too much in there, depending on how severe the case would be, either do a large water change or maybe just skip dosing for a couple of days and then just retest before you add anything else in there.
Another little cheat code is, and this is the cool thing about big tanks, they normally don't swing as much.
Yeah.
As long as you're careful, it's, you know, there's, I guess there's no replacement for displacement. So like the tank is so big that even if you mess up a little bit, chances are on a really big tank, it's not gonna make such a huge impact. But you take a 50 gallon or 100 gallon and you overdose it or something like that, and then obviously it's.
That's why they're saying of a bigger tank is easier, which people think a smaller tank would be easier, but the swings and consistency is a lot.
They run a lot, you know, a lot more consistent for sure, the bigger tanks.
But smaller tanks, does UV matter?
We still like them.
Yeah, we
like them
still
on anything. Yeah.
We love UVs. Like we run them on all of our systems. It just helps so much with water clarity, reducing algae, diseases, parasites, anything like that. And the hobby now has advanced so much. They do offer UVs for smaller tanks. We have a couple of them at the store that we sold for 25 gallons, 30 gallons.
We have drop-in UVs for nano tanks. We have, I guess the biggest thing, it doesn't matter how big the tank is, you just got to properly size it. So nothing being too much is ever good, right? So like, you don't want to take a 57 watt UV and put that on a 40 gallon tank, right?
So as much as your tank.
Right, so as long as you know, not bigger isn't always better. So as long as it's sized properly and stuff, we love them. It doesn't matter the size of the tank.
Would a UV sterilizer wipe out cyano in a freshwater tank?
Oh boy.
That might be a Jess question.
I do not know.
Yeah. No comment there, Wes.
Don't know.
We
I know it works for dinoflagellates for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would take care of a lot of that, but cyano is more of a bacteria base, so it's kind of hard to say what it would do because once it's kind of on a surface, is it not necessarily passing through the UV? Honestly, I've never had a cyano in a freshwater.
that's what I was gonna say. We're not freshwater people, so we apologize. But I've never seen cyano in a freshwater tank.
Maybe not the same type of cyano.
No, maybe it's another type. But I would assume that like products that work for the saltwater one might work for the freshwater one.
Theory.
Kind of the same thing. So a UV might help with it, you know. But
tips for raising NO3 and PO4. I feed a lot. Testing right now, all zeros.
It's very. Well, I think it's very hard to actually have absolute zeros.
Yeah.
So the only case we've ever run into that is like, you know, if there's just not enough fish. And,
or there's
you know,
a lot of coral.
Yeah, or there's a lot of coral absorbing the nutrients. And so, you know, if it is absolutely zero, you can add more fish. You know, if they are already feeding a lot, there are supplements that you can, neonitro, neophos, that you can dose into the aquariums.
You can do liquid nitrates and phosphates. I think it's better if you feed the fish a little bit more, add the bioload like naturally if you can. If you absolutely have to, you can. But
Also, I'd kind of add to that is like double check your test kits.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're actually getting absolute
that's
zeros.
another big one.
If you're running a skimmer, go ahead and shut it off for a bit. You know, tone down water changes and stuff, but like absolute zero, I think is an extreme rarity.
So
I do question test kits and other stuff.
I struggle with test kits sometimes because when you're looking at
the colors,
it's like
the
colors, it's like I don't know what color.
It's like it's orange or pink.
Because you know you might look at it and think it's zero, but even 2 or 5 like is you know like if they're at 5, that's okay.
And also, what test kit are you using? You know, what brand?
Right.
Good question. GFO, which do you use in a reactor?
So we use Rowaphos. It's always what we've used. It's been around forever. We do recommend running it in a reactor. It's just getting that water flow through there just makes it a lot more effective. A lot of people don't want to invest in a reactor and they throw it in a sock, leave it in their sump. It just doesn't work. There's not water's not getting pushed through there.
Bypasses it.
Yeah, in the reactor. So with GFO, you want it to lightly tumble, like inside the reactor, and it's basically cleaning its surface off so that it can continue to absorb phosphates and stuff. And I think you guys have a new GFO, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll have to try that one out.
Yeah.
I think you guys will like it. What's the nicer looking rock available now?
Oh boy.
What rock do you guys typically use?
So we do a little bit of everything depending on what people want, because we build a lot of aquascapes too. We use the Caribsea stuff. Just like you guys, so we have all the different Caribsea rocks. We use Marco Rock. We have all the shelf rock from Marco Rock and Caribsea.
Are you imported? Like, are you using any of the import? Like the ocean?
We do so little with that stuff. Actually,
it seems like it's
do
almost non-existent now. Is that?
Yeah.
You guys are more in tune with that.
Yeah.
So the thing with that is it's just not available very much anymore. And then the ones that are so pesty. They always have mantis shrimps, aptasias, like pest algae and stuff like that. So nobody really wants, they have great bioload and like microfauna and stuff like that, but you're going to be battling so much after getting that rock in your aquarium that it's like,
and the shapes aren't as complex as what the man-made stuff is
Exactly.
either.
I definitely don't recommend anybody to go that route unless they really they've been down that route and they're just passionate about it. There's some people who are big on like the actual natural live rock.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do it, I guess the best advice is just cure it in a tub. Do something, because the amount of little mantis shrimp and pistol shrimps and bad things and worms and this and that,
worms.
it's gonna be quite a bit. So if you can cure it, you might at least be in better shape. So.
I think if you do, I've seen people that start with
Bottle
that and they
worms.
don't ever have that clean
No.
aquarium
Lots of UV
because
questions
of how it is.
too.
A lot, and I'm skipping some.
Everybody's got UV questions.
How do you recommend plumbing a UV sterilizer without returning water straight into the display tank?
So it is always better to send it straight into the display tank. So if you can, that is the best way, because you're not going to be processing new water through that sterilizer if you're dumping it, let's say, right back into your return pump chamber. Your pump is sucking it right back up and it's processing it twice. So if you absolutely can't do it, which I don't see how you wouldn't be able to do it, because you can just tee into it one way or another and go back into the display. But if you absolutely can't do it, then what I would try to do is not take in water from the return section, give it its own pump, and let's say grab the water downstream, like at the beginning of the sump, process it through the UV, and then throw it in the return pump chamber. So at least
Not
it's
touching the same water.
It's getting at least as much new water as it can.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's their electric and water bill?
A lot. A lot of
Far more than you guys want to
a lot of zeros in it.
Can't even imagine the number of pumps, lights, everything running in your store.
Reactors,
You have a huge farm.
Yeah, we'll put it this way: between the farm and the store, you can buy a really nice aquarium on a monthly basis. Yeah.
This question looks suspect. Would Cuddle Bone work for giving the tank calcium? I have no idea what that is.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh no, okay. Cuttlebone's used in reptiles and isopods and stuff like that, but it is a calcium skeleton base of like I think a cuttlefish.
Oh.
Is it like a powder? It's like a
No, it's actually a.
Just in her never-ending library of
learn
knowledge.
something new every day.
I have Cuttlebone in one of my isopod bins, actually.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's really the best bioavailable calcium source for a reef tank.
Yeah.
Everyone's now Googling Cuttlebone.
Can I ask, how do you control massive algae outbreaks, mainly cyano and fur algae?
So a lot of the algae issues that you're going to run into with an aquarium is always going to be from excessive nutrients, whether it's overfeeding, not having the proper equipment to export excessive nutrients, like not doing your water changes, having an underpowered skimmer, even not having enough flow. Like if you don't have enough flow in your aquarium, a lot of that food that's sinking to the bottom or being stuck underneath the rocks is not going to get processed and moved into your overflow box and into your sump where your skimmer or your filter socks can remove it. So there's a lot of things that will cause those algae outbreaks, which is all within our control. You know, just go a little light on the feedings the first couple of months. You don't have that biodiversity to break down all that extra food in there. Load up on your cleanup crew, your shrimps, your snails, your hermits, and stuff like that.
Start slow.
Definitely, that'll help. You know, keep your aquarium
Patience.
cleaner. Yes.
Always say patience.
Don't overstock. Don't go too crazy the first month or two. And if you can just keep those nutrient levels in check, make sure your flow is good, that your light's not cranked up too high. In the event that you do have algae issues, there's mechanical filtration, chemical filtration that you can put in there, like GFOs for removing phosphates. There's bacteria you can do to lower nitrate levels.
And every tank is going to get it at the beginning. There's no way to avoid that initial ugly phase in a reef tank.
Yeah, but the extra different types of algae are usually based upon nutrients or something.
Right.
And I mean, it comes down to a lot of times people do ask us, like, and I'm sure you guys too, like, okay, I want to get this aquarium. do I need those power heads right now? Do I
Yeah.
have to have that skimmer
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
Do you have to? The answer is no, you don't have to.
But it
by
helps a lot.
starting right with all the flow, the protein skimmer, the reactors, using everything, you are gonna
Be
set
more
yourself
successful.
up
For sure.
success
For sure.
versus saying, oh, well, I have cyano, now I need that power
And then
head.
it just takes so much
and
longer
you are
to get
now
it right back.
fighting
Yeah.
a battle.
That's the problem. It takes, I would say, 4 times as long to fix it as it did to
Yeah.
happen. So like,
Exactly.
if it took you a month to, have that whole tank blown up in hair, it's gonna,
Yeah,
hair
4
algae,
months.
it's
You're
gonna take
get
you
it
3
right.
or 4 months to
and
fix
that's where I
it.
think a lot of people is they get like discouraged if they do have those issues. But it's like, no, you don't physically have to start with everything.
Yeah.
Should you?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It definitely helps.
Or at least plan for it and know, like, hey, if you are
Quickly,
starting
yeah.
to stock heavier and this is something you want to do long term and be successful, then you need to implement those items into your aquarium.
Do all fish species grow to size relative to the tank, or only certain species?
So that one's that one's up for debate. That's.
Yeah.
They say, some fish, their growth gets stunted in aquariums and things like that, but we got some really big fish and some not so big tanks that we've had. Like, we have some frag tanks that are a couple 100 gallons, and we have full-size tanks in there that.
We've got self-ins like
Yeah,
this.
and they grew that big in that tank. And
Yeah.
so I think it boils more down to like nutrition,
That's what I was gonna
water
say,
quality,
arguably,
and like
yeah.
things around that sort than so much just like, oh, the fish is in an aquarium and he won't grow or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Genetics are genetics. The fish is supposed to
Yeah.
be a certain size.
Yeah.
Now, if being that big and that small of an aquarium does it have long-term consequences, that fish might not get to 20,
Right.
30
Right.
years.
Right,
Like,
right.
it's not good for them. You're like, oh, my tank's been so happy in this 16-gallon aquarium
Yeah,
for
that-
a year. No.
Yeah.
So ethical fish keeping
Absolutely.
is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an unhappy candy cane and cannot figure out why everything else is doing well. It's supposed to be a beginner coral, and I'm failing.
Need info.
Yeah.
So with the candy cane corals, they do, yes, they are a beginner coral. It's actually, the candy canes, the Duncans and stuff like that. We saw a lot of those, the first month or two of somebody setting up an aquarium. A lot of it could just be placement. It
Yeah.
could, maybe it's in the flow, it's just hitting a little bit too hard. When the tank is a little bit newer, they do tend, it's kind of tricky because it's like, they're clean, but then they're not. Like they're stabilizing themselves, and so there's a lot more fluctuations. But usually at the beginning, there's not enough food in there for them to really have maybe enough nutrition. So it could be that maybe it's just a little bit hungry. If you're not feeding coral food, maybe try to spot feed it, give it some amino acids.
Yeah, move it around.
Tuck
That's
it
a big
into,
one.
Yeah,
like,
if you get
some
those feeder
lower
tunnels
flow.
out, give like little pieces of mice or small pellets or something. It would really
Yeah,
probably appreciate
move
that.
it around, see if it gets happy. So I've literally taken a coral from here and then moved it to there,
Yeah.
and it's like all the difference.
I
So-
think for like trumpets
Crazy.
and Duncans, flow is a big one
Yeah.
on how much it's going to open and be happy to feed.
Which coral is the one that looks like little hands opening and closing? I want that one.
I would
The
assume,
zinnia,
I would
maybe?
assume they're
Zinnia.
talking
Yeah.
of pulsing zinnia. So I don't know if you want
Give the
that
warning.
one.
Give them
I
the
don't-
warning.
You really don't want that one. We'll just say that. It is beautiful, but if you're gonna get it, make sure to put it on its
You
own.
don't even
little
really see
rock
it very
and-
often, probably because like the stores don't even want
we
to
don't
deal
even
with it.
want it.
They-
It'll
they
like take
take
over the
over.
tanks and
Tell me they're across the tank with a little hand pulse. And you're
Yeah.
like, no. Here. They're very
And then they're
invasive.
everywhere.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
invasive. So it's kind of like your beloved star polyps. Put it
Love
on a rock
By itself.
separate
Yeah.
so that it still will bring itself somewhere in the frame, but it's going to be a little bit more
Yeah.
contained. Don't put it in the center of your main rock because now you're going to have a tank just full of
Yeah.
xenia,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. I've seen display tanks that are almost all xenia and it's great, but I don't think that's most people going for.
Yeah.
Best way to safely increase nitrate and phosphate.
Yeah, I think we kind of went over that one, right? Dosing
Add a little
it.
bit more fish,
Yeah,
feeding
add
a little
more
bit
fish, feed
heavier.
a little bit more. And that's it. Just do what, I guess, we'll say something we didn't say on the last one, on this one, since the question kind of came up again. The biggest thing is whatever you're going to do it slowly. And do it little by little. Like, don't be like, let me throw 30 milliliters of neo-nitro in my 40-gallon tank, and then your nitrates are 100.
Let me triple my feeding.
Right.
Yeah.
So whatever you're gonna do it little by little and test while you're doing it.
So the
this
first-
mute button
yeah.
that's flashing that's driving me crazy. Not a big deal.
He's fighting the TV back here.
Yeah, no, it's just because the TV's muted.
Oh,
it's all
I
right.
see it.
He just keeps stopping.
Next to the mixer down there.
Okay, no worries. How early can you add pods to a new tank?
Oh, right away.
We add them right away, like within a week or two. They're so beneficial to the aquarium. So usually after we set up the tank, we wait like 24 to 48 hours for it to clear up and stuff like that. If they do any type of live bacteria, we have them leave the skimmer off for a couple of days, and then usually within the first week or two, we're adding pods in there.
So anyone who might not know, what do copepods do and what is their benefit?
So they're, it's a small little organism. It's microfauna and stuff like that in the aquarium. They serve several purposes, I guess, depending on what you're looking at it. But the base of it is they are like a cleanup crew. So they tend to go in every little crevice that you could ever have in your tank. They're tiny, right? So they can get everywhere and eat any leftover food, things like that.
Detritus. Algae.
And then their second purpose, which is a big one for most people. There's a lot of fish that only eat copepods.
Yeah.
So if you want to have those fish, generally you're supplementing your copepods so you can have those fish, unless it's a really big tank. But if you want to have a mandarin, let's say in a 75-gallon or something, which
everyone's like fish they fall in love with.
Right, everybody falls in love with it. Yeah, it's definitely doable, but you just gotta put some pods in there every couple weeks.
They're like the first step in the food chain. Yeah. Like everything, they just feed everything else that goes above it.
Pick on them at least.
Even for the algae, like I remember when I was setting up my tank at home, I had the craziest algae bloom like 2 months in, and like the green water like on the glass and stuff, and you could see like when the pods really started to populate, like the patches that didn't have algae had all the pods in there, and then like they would like literally eat away the algae. You could see the rings of where they're like eating away.
Their population's booming, the algae going down.
Yep.
And the fish are happy.
Yes.
They love to pick off.
They
those
love
guys.
to eat them. Yep.
This is a popular question. Do you cycle a tank with fish or with fishless cycle?
So this is very tricky because I know I'm going to have. It is very controversial. It is very controversial. For us, we do it very responsibly. There is so many brands of live bacteria now that you can get, and we get fresh shipments of live bacteria in every week. Okay.
Yeah.
So we personally use Turbo Start. It is refrigerated. It's very concentrated. It does allow us to add a fish right away. We're not setting up the aquarium and adding it that day. We're waiting a couple of days. We're letting that water warm up to temperature. We're letting the water clear up. We're making sure that the flow is good, that the rocks are stable, that we're not like everything's like good, like the water's clear and to temp and stuff like that. And then we're going to do the bacteria for the rating. So like we have small bottles that do 20 gallons. We have bigger bottles that go all the way up to like 200 or 300 gallons. Okay. So we're going to use the right amount of bacteria, and we're going to start out with 1 or 2 fish.
That's the key.
Yeah, we're not dumping 5 or 6 fish in there. It's usually like
full coral.
Exactly. It's usually like a chromis or like a pair of clowns. We usually almost always do a pair of clowns. They're aquaculture. They're hardy. They're not going to have diseases, and they benefit each other. So the ammonia that the clowns give off is going to feed the bacteria, and the bacteria is going to colonize in your rock and your sand, and that's going to allow you to be able to add more animals later on. So we do
with the fish,
but we are very responsible.
Yeah, you got to do it responsibly, and
that's the most important.
That's the most important part. So there's no way to. I guess like skip the cycle, per se. But the thing with the live bacteria is that it skips the first 3/4 of the cycle.
Like the deadly part of it,
right. So usually at 99% of the times when we're doing it, we don't see an ammonia spike, a nitrite spike. It's bacteria goes in, 1 or 2 little fish go in, and 3 days later, 4 days later, you have diatoms, which means your cycle's like pretty much done. You know what I mean?
I did want to interject too that like a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just add liquid ammonia in? Like, why are you putting a fish? It's such an unnatural form of ammonia that it takes
so long to cycle with it.
Months, months. We've had people that just refused. I'm not putting a fish in here.
And it's 4 months later, and their
nitrites are still at like 2 ppm, and their water changes, and it's so unnatural.
That's the other thing. Like if you throw in the human element of it, and unfortunately, because we are human, we make a lot of mistakes. So you dose way too much ammonia, and you just crash the cycle, and then it's over and over again. Yeah. So. If you're gonna be responsible, fish is the way I think, the modern way for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Pee in the tank to get the motorcycle started.
Yeah.
Does that really work?
I've never
Or
done
is
it.
this the unnatural thing that you're talking about? Are people pouring pee in a
Super
bottle?
popular like 15, 20 years
I've
ago.
never done it. I've heard of a lot
Before
of
there were
old school
bottle
guys.
bacteria,
Yeah.
pneumonias and stuff.
Things are so different 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've been
it's-
doing it for just about like 20 years, and I know people that before that have done it. I've never done it. But
There's so many products these days too. That
Yeah.
simplify,
There's
like
just
you
no
were
reason
talking
to
about.
do
No reason.
buy a $15 bottle of Turbo Start or Microbacter Start, throw it in there, you're good to go.
Best thing to eat algae in a 40-gallon saltwater.
No matter the size, all your normal cleanup crew is
Yeah.
always going to be the best. Your snails, your hermits, you know. In a smaller tank like that, there's a couple things that might not be a great idea. Like you don't want to put in like a big urchin or like something like that. But all your normal stuff, your normal snails, your crabs, you can do emeralds, you can do hermits, your conchs, and even some fish. Like if you have a lot of hair algae, you can do little algae blenny or
Algae
things
blending
like
would
that.
be adorable
yeah,
in there.
yeah.
No tanks. Don't
No,
do it.
no tanks, no tanks.
Okay, questions keep coming in, but I'm gonna take 2 more questions, and then
Okay.
we got winners.
Okay. Best mushroom coral.
That's subject to opinion.
I like them all.
Yeah, there's too many cool ones. I think obviously everybody loves like all the crazy jawbreakers and
Bounce
bounce
mushrooms,
corals, all the neglectas and all these cool things.
I love the Rhodactis species myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reduct's
Yeah.
really
My thing is
nice.
the jawbreakers.
Are Recordias still around much?
They are, but you
Yeah.
know what? There was like a huge bleaching, maybe
Florida had a bad
8
rap.
months
Because a
ago.
lot of them,
Yeah, I
a lot
know,
of them
no,
come
Florida.
from Florida and the Caribbean and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
they're Florida Recordia.
There was a big bleaching.
There's been some super cool colored Recordias for sure, like the multicolored ones.
I know it's
Yeah.
probably unpopular because they take over your tank, but I love the red and blue mushrooms, which
Like
are
the little
regular
single
old
bands?
basic,
Yeah.
basic ones, but they take over.
I'm a
so.
huge fan of basic corals. I don't
You
know.
would do a star polyp and mother tank. And
Yeah.
just be
Star
happy
polyp and
with
pulsing
life.
zinnia.
Yeah, there you go. What fish is your dream fish to own? That's a good question.
I don't know who that one's for.
I don't
You
know
go
the
first.
answer it.
Oh, we're all gonna do it.
Yeah, why not?
You've probably owned every fish.
I have owned just about every fish.
Is there one like really high end one that you haven't had? Like a
So I
Peppermint
didn't.
I
Angel
already
or
know what mine is.
I didn't own it, but I brought it in for a customer of mine, and I kind of owned them for like 4 months. But I'm real basic, just like you were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think they were absolutely stunning. So the masked angels, they're just literally black and white.
Yeah.
But they're like $20,000 fish. So I had brought in a pair of those for a customer, and
That would give me a
and
heart
housed them.
attack housing
Yeah.
that fish for someone at that price.
You know,
Yeah.
you just gotta make them sign a contract or something. It's a risk you take. If you want me to
Yeah.
hold it for 4 months because you got stuff going on, I'll do it. But but they thankfully they lived, and those are probably my favorite fish. That and a Dr. Seuss fish.
The Dr. Seuss's are super cool.
Yeah.
Mine are the. Do you remember the flame wrasses from Hawaii? The
Yes.
yellow, orange. Man, I love those.
You used
You
to
can't
bring
get
those
them
in
anymore.
all the
All the
time.
time.
They
It
were
was like a
super
staple
common. You
fish,
can't
yeah.
They're
get
like
them
$300 for
Yeah.
a male.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I like
Can't get 'em
the
anymore.
crosshatch
No.
triggers too.
Oh,
The
crosshatch,
golden?
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the golden crosshatch.
I would say dreamfish, not my favorite fish, but dreamfish would be a Moorish idol that lived a
Lived.
very long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think they're amazing and they're beautiful and they're so highly sought.
They're so
But
challenging.
they're sold by people that shouldn't sell them. They're
Yeah.
sold to people that shouldn't own them.
Yeah.
So many of them died because of it. Now, if there's one that just did well in captivity, ate the commercial diet, and was happy, that would be my dream fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is basic, but I've never kept it. But it's one of my favorite tangs for whatever reason. I think because I did a lot of scuba diving, like down in the Keys, is the Atlantic blue tang.
Yeah, they're cool.
I don't know why.
They're really pretty.
Maybe they don't look as cool in a tank, but when you're diving,
Yeah, when
the
you see, like,
blue is like
100 of
super
them, yeah.
electric. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're
No, they
really
have
cool.
a lot of amazing
And I don't
details.
see them.
so-
Like,
We
get
sell
them.
we get them. We sell them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we get plenty of them.
So next time you get one,
I would
let
have
me
you
know.
guys ready.
yeah, we need to
Yeah.
get
We
one.
have a 6 foot
Yeah,
that he can go
they've,
into and make his dreams
Yeah.
come true.
Yeah.
They semi become a replacement for like yellow tangs for some people, at least
those
in
too.
that
Oh,
stage
okay.
when they're yellow. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
yeah, I like those.
That
a
was
lot.
a really good question.
cool.
Was that 2?
That was
Yeah, that was the
Cut us
last one.
off.
You want more?
I think we're good. I think we're good. Can we put up that if you guys don't know, Living Reef was generous enough to give us a discount code for their website. So if you're in the market for some corals, hit up livingreeforlando.com for 15% off. The coupon code's right there. Is it in the description too?
I'm not sure, but we'll be sure.
Okay, but it's on there on the screen, so
If not, it'll be
you can
added
always
to the description,
rewind
too.
later and get the coupon code
Take a
if you need.
screenshot.
Yeah, there you go. Take a screenshot.
Do it now.
So we appreciate that, you guys, as always.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Visit them at Reefapalooza this weekend if you're local
Yeah.
into Orlando or coming
Yes,
down for the show.
absolutely.
We won't be there, but they'll be there with all the beautiful corals plus some Waterbox stuff. We are having a long week, plus going into next week. We're not attending the show this weekend.
No,
We pondered
unfortunately.
it and we're like, no, we're not
We're
going to
like, we're live 5 days this week plus
2 days next
Monday, and I
week.
was like, I don't know if I can.
Our families would be like,
Shows.
sorry guys, you need to be here. So we will
Very
not be
long
showing up to
days.
Reefapalooza this weekend, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
go check out Living
I'm
Reef.
kind of bummed because I did want to go, but
There's always next year.
Sunday we'll get like a spurge of energy and go. I
probably
don't
not.
know.
But maybe. What else we got? The giveaway has ended. We're going to do that here in a minute. Are you ready for
Whenever
winners?
you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. For any information, reach them out like the sales and giveaways and upcoming streams. Check out waterboxaquariums.com.
/inspire.
I never know which slash to say.
/.
Forward
Not
slash.
backslash.
Waterboxaquariums.com. Everything's.
It links right there. So that's for the streams coming up for the rest of the week and giveaways and all that good stuff. So
Tomorrow's stream.
Yes.
yes. All right, let's announce the winners.
Go.
All right, we
Ready?
ready? Winners for the gift cards.
I always butcher these names. Julia Henley.
Get out of the way.
Congratulations, Julia. We'll contact you to get that. We'll
They
send
probably
out
already
the-
have it in their inbox.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
By the time
fast.
we get to these, they've already been sent.
Yeah.
Usually.
That's pretty crazy. That's
I
cool.
know. We got some
Our team's
behind
on top
the
of
scenes.
it.
Yeah.
They're on it.
All right, we have winner number 2 for a Waterbox gift card.
Yep.
Ready?
Go.
David Page.
Woo!
Congratulations, David. Check your
All right.
email.
And third winner is.
It's gonna be me.
Oh.
Macro resets. And last one.
All right.
Go.
Thomas Gardner. Thomas, check your email.
This is a good customer of ours.
There you
Oh,
go.
And that's
nice.
the same Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
If there's 2 Thomas Gardners, you might be confused, but if not,
Yeah.
There's something
If
that
you
I
are
did
Thomas,
not
hello,
mention.
Thomas.
There's something I didn't mention that I do want to mention. If you guys are in the Central Florida area, or if you're even in Florida, or if you're in town, visit Living Reef because they do showroom a tremendous amount of Waterbox tanks.
Yes.
You get your Waterbox.
So if you're in a market for a Waterbox, you want to go see one.
Yeah, come check
These
them
are
out.
the guys to go see. They've supported us practically since day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that greatly. So definitely head over to Living Reef in Orlando.
And if you want to know more about them, there is probably at least 10 different shows and streams and videos.
Yeah.
Probably more than that by now.
We've done a lot.
Yeah.
Showing all different aspects. We've seen their farm, store, choosing fish and stuff. A lot of good information on our YouTube. Just in the search bar, put Living Reef. You'll have a whole bunch of content to watch.
Yep.
If you're not local, they do ship all throughout the
Yep,
U.S.
we do ship.
Yep.
Corals and inverts, right?
Yep.
Corals
Okay.
and inverts, yep. We might start
And
doing
anything,
fish, but-
honestly, anything. Like we do dry goods
Dry
and
goods
stuff
too.
too.
Okay.
And
Nice.
we're working on incorporating that into our website. But anything you guys need, feel free to email us, message on social media. If you don't
So
have
if you're like, hey, I want to
fish-
order some corals, but I need some.
or
such
like
and
some
such or
lights,
whatever.
and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
whatever
that.
you
We
need,
have,
just hit us up.
yeah,
We got
we're
everything.
so lucky in the Orlando area, but there are people who don't have a local fish store,
No,
and they
Yeah.
just they don't have
So
anything.
spoiled
They don't
here.
have anything around them. So
Yeah.
like if you need lights,
Yeah, just check out our socials. We're always posting updates about everything, stuff like that. And if you need anything, hit us up.
One-stop shop.
Perfect.
There you go.
Again, you guys, the sales are running from April 15th to the 22nd. Take advantage of that. Don't wait. We're live again tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Yep. So tomorrow we have Dimitri from Treasure Corals. He is sharing his kind of history into the hobby as well as his multiple water boxes, which he just combined into a Reef LX. And if you don't know him, he's from Treasure Corals. Do check him out. He's in Canada. So he's going to be here. We're going to talk about all his water boxes, but he's also going to Skype in live for Q&A
Q&A.
tomorrow. So kind of the same deal. You want to be live. You want to ask your questions. Drop them into the chat because we're going to spend some live Q&A time with Dimitri tomorrow.
Love it. Thank you guys. We appreciate
Thank
it so
you
much.
guys for
guys.
having us.
See ya
And thank
tomorrow.
you all as well. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell.
Inspire sales are live until April 22nd. Up to 20% off in the USA, Canada, United Kingdom, and Europe.
Financing is available with rates as low as 0% for 24 months.
Join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern for our next Inspire stream.